Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. Let me say again, hey, it's good to be back with you. It really is. I miss sharing my thoughts with you on YouTube and Facebook, and I appreciate the fact that our subscriber list continues to grow. I'm now up, according to YouTube's count, if I looked at it correctly, I'm now up to 5,100 plus subscribers. Now, look, I know, I understand that's not in the tens of thousands, okay? But I also understand that it continues to grow. I also understand that I continue to hear from people literally from all over the world who are coming to just thrill at understanding the Scriptures and who are laying aside their preconceived ideas and they're rejoicing in Christ and the trustworthiness of His Word, not as some confused mishmash of, all of this and all of that and whatever, but they're coming to understand. When I got back into the office yesterday, trying to get caught up with correspondence and what have you, I just had one email after another from individuals who have come to understand covenant eschatology, who have laid aside their dispensationalism, they've laid aside their amillennialism, they are now rejoicing in the truth of fulfilled eschatology. So anyway, it's great to be back with you. It's great to be able to continue to share with you. And one of the things that we are focusing on is the claim that in the Olivet Discourse, there is a contrast between those days and that day, literally that day. But I have shown you, in yesterday's video, I demonstrated that is a false contrast. That claim will not stand up. Well, there's a parallel passage to the Olivet Discourse that when you lay these two passages side by side in parallel columns, you soon discover that they are in fact absolutely parallel. Now, the remarkable thing is this, all right? Scholars such as Greg Bahnsen, a man for whom I had tremendous admiration, and by the way, he and I had signed propositions for a formal public debate before his untimely death. I was very, very sad by his passing. I was very disappointed that we never got to have our debate. I think it would have been epic. I think it would have been fantastic. But all of that aside, Dr. Bahnsen believed that Luke chapter 17 is a discussion of the end of time. Matthew 24 is about two different things. Olivet Discourse, end of time. Now, his reasons for creating that division between Matthew 24 and Luke 17 are, in my estimation, very untenable. And by the way, Gary DeMar has recently written an article on that very question. With Gary's permission, I'm going to be contacting him today. I'm going to be posting that article on my website, so be looking for that. But I want you to notice just some of the direct, absolute, perfect parallels between the Olivet Discourse. Now notice here what I'm about to say. Between the, quote, section, unquote, of Matthew 24 that everyone agrees talked about AD 70, the days leading up to it. And Luke chapter 17 says the identical things. Well, okay, if Matthew 24:27, for instance, talks about AD 70, as it is almost universally admitted, and if Luke chapter 17:27 says the exact, precise, identical thing, then upon what basis do we say that Luke chapter 17 is talking about something different? Now, if Jesus was clear, if he was emphatic, if he was explicit in drawing a contrast, well, that's one thing. But he wasn't. In Matthew 24 and verse 27, Jesus said, "For as the lightning comes from the east and to the west, so also shall the parousia of the Son of Man be." Luke chapter 17 and verse 24, "As the lightning flashes out of one part of under heaven, shines to the other part under heaven, so also the Son of Man will be in his day." Hello? Now wait a minute. So you know what commentators do? Some of them, not all of them, but some of them, they see the proverbial train coming, and so they say, well, you see, in Matthew 24:27, even though we would say as a general rule that verses 4 to 35 is talking about AD 70, in verse 27, Jesus inserts this real quick parenthetical statement about the end of time. Based upon their presuppositional idea that the apostles had asked about the end of time. Remember my book, okay? That basic foundational presupposition that the apostles had asked about Jesus' coming at the end of time so drives, so directs, so controls the commentaries on the Olivet Discourse as a whole, that they come up with these claims, oh, well, Matthew 24:27, that's kind of a parenthetical discussion. Really? By the way, folks, there is no indication in any Greek text, no suggestion, no hint of an idea that verse 27 is a parenthetical insertion. None. So anyway, we have that parallel. Then in Matthew 24 and verse 37, as it was in the days of Noah, Luke chapter 17, verse 26. Well, wait a minute. We just have a reference to that which has to be in the days leading up to the fall of Jerusalem, Matthew 24:27. Now all of a sudden, Matthew 24:37, as it was in the days of Noah, and we have that in Luke chapter 17 and verse 27. Now watch this. I'm going to skip down here, verse 31. In that day, what day? In the day when the Son of Man is revealed. Greek word apocalypsis. In the day when the Son of Man is revealed, in that day, let the one who is on the housetop, and his goods are in the house, let him not come down to take them away. And likewise, the one who is in the field, let him not return to get his clothes. Remember Lot's wife. Oh, wait a minute. This is directly from Matthew 24 and verse 17. In those days, oh, wait a minute. What are those days? Those are the days, we are told, admittedly refer to the days prior to the fall of Jerusalem. These are the days in which they would see the abomination of desolation. So in those days, when you see these things come to pass, if you're on the rooftop, don't come down. Now, look, folks, you see, we have to understand architecture in the ancient world. They had basically flat roofs with parapets all around, little small, 3-foot walls, but the rooftops were joined one to another. You could actually travel by rooftop anywhere in Jerusalem because there were always steps outside the rooftop to lead you down to the street or to lead you outside the city walls. So Jesus is saying, in the day when the Son of Man is revealed, if you're on the rooftop, don't come down. If you're in the field, don't come back into the city. Now let me ask you, what do we do with audience relevance here? Let me ask you, how many of you have rooftops? You may live in a condo, all right? But the point of fact is, the architectural feature here and the audience relevance of this demands he is talking about first century time events. If you're on the rooftop, don't come down. Get out of town. Oh, and by the way, that's driven home. Remember Lot's wife. You know what some commentators do here? They say, well, you see, remember Lot's wife because she was just covetous. And she cared more for her goods than she did about getting away. Where does the story of Lot in Genesis ever suggest such a thing? What did the angel tell Lot and Mrs. Lot? Get out of town. Flee. That's the operative word. Flee. Not a word about, now don't be covetous. Don't be worldly in your thoughts and look back at what you're about to lose. No, that's not the thought. It is flee. And so here, in a context in which if you're on the rooftop, don't come down. If you're in the field, don't come back. Remember Lot's wife. What's the operative word? Flee. Then he goes ahead to say, and I'll just skip down to verse 37. They answered and said to him, Lord, where? Where's this going to take place? And Jesus says, oh, by the way, Matthew 24:28, direct parallel. Verse 28, guess what? We are told by the commentators, AD 70. So here in Luke chapter 17 and verse 37, exact same question, exact same answer. Lord, where? And he said to them, wherever the body is, the eagles will be gathered together. The vultures will be gathered together. By the way, did you notice this is a singular body? Jesus doesn't say where the bodies are. Nope. It's the body, singular. This is the corpse of Israel. It is a corporate corpse. But all of that aside, do you see the perfect parallel between Matthew 24:28 and Luke chapter 17 and verse 37? Folks, how is it possible for us to take all of these parallels, and I haven't looked at all of them here. How is it possible for us to look at these perfect parallels between Matthew 24, first and second sections, quoted directly in Luke chapter 17 in a single narrative, in a single dialogue, with no distinctions noted, with not a statement from Jesus in which he says, now look guys, I know that I told you about this, and I use this language in reference to what's coming in this generation, but now I want to tell you about something at least 2,000 years away. Now I'm going to use the same language, but I'm not talking about the same thing. No, that doesn't work. And look, I well understood similarity of language does not prove identicality of subject. You know, the language of the coming of the Lord on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory and fire and tempest and the hailstone and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I understand that. I've discussed this extensively in my books. But here we have same time elements. You see in the Old Testament the differences between the day of the Lord of Isaiah 19 is different from the day of the Lord of Ezekiel, verse 29 to 31, or Jeremiah chapter 4, or Zephaniah chapter 1. So we may have the same kind of language, but we have different time elements. In Luke 17 and Matthew 24, we have the same exact precise time element and the perfect parallel of language, of motif, of theme. Everything fits. There's no justification for attempting to create two different discussions of two different events at two far different times. It doesn't work. Okay? Well, I'm out of time. Don't forget, go to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com. Order my brand spanking new book, Watching for the Parousia, Were Jesus' Apostles Confused? You will love this book. All right? Regularly $18.95 plus postage. For the month of July 2020, $15.95 postpaid. It's going to save you a good chunk of money, almost $8, okay? So go there and order the book. You'll be glad you did. Hey, thanks for joining me. I'll see you on the flip side.